The crystal towers of Zephyria gleamed like frozen starlight against the purple sky. Empress Veltara stood on her throne room balcony, watching the strange metal ships approach her world. The human vessels looked crude and ugly compared to her people's elegant crystal craft that moved through space like dancing light. The Empress was tall and graceful, her body made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Her people, the Zephyrians, had ruled 3 star systems for thousands of years. They could shape matter with their minds, using harmonic frequencies that made the universe itself sing. To them, these new creatures called humans seemed barely more than clever animals. "Mother, the alien delegation is ready," said Princess Lysandra as she entered the throne room. The princess was beautiful, her crystal form shining with golden light. She was young for a Zephyrian, only 300 years old. But she was brave and curious about the universe beyond their empire. "These humans," the Empress said with distaste. "They build with dead metal and burn chemicals to move through space. What could such primitive beings possibly offer us?" The princess tilted her head thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should listen to them, Mother. They traveled far to reach us. That shows determination, at least." The Empress sighed. Her daughter was too kind, too willing to see good in lesser beings. But Lysandra was her heir, and she needed to learn diplomacy, even with primitives. "Very well. We will receive them in the crystal chamber. But keep the meeting short." An hour later, the human delegation stood in the vast crystal chamber. The room was alive with singing stones that created beautiful patterns of light and sound. The humans looked small and fragile in their bulky environmental suits. Their leader was a woman with kind eyes behind her helmet's visor. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen," the woman said through her suit's translator. "We come in peace from Earth, hoping to build friendship between our peoples." The Empress barely hid her amusement. These creatures needed machines to breathe and metal shells to protect their soft bodies. How could they hope to understand the Zephyrian way of life? Princess Lysandra stepped forward gracefully. "Welcome to our world, Dr. Chen. I am Princess Lysandra. We are honored by your visit." Her golden light pulsed warmly as she spoke. Dr. Chen smiled. "Thank you, Princess. Your world is beautiful beyond anything we imagined. We hope to learn from your advanced civilization." The princess was charmed by the human's humble manner. She began explaining how Zephyrian crystals could channel harmonic frequencies to reshape matter. Dr. Chen listened with genuine fascination, asking thoughtful questions about the science behind their abilities. As the demonstration continued, the princess decided to show the humans something special. She activated the chamber's main harmonic translator, a massive crystal device that could convert thoughts directly into harmonic patterns. The device would let the humans truly understand Zephyrian communication. But something went wrong. The translator's frequencies clashed with the electromagnetic fields from the human technology. A terrible resonance began building in the crystal matrix. The harmonic patterns turned chaotic, creating a feedback loop that grew stronger by the second. "Shut it down!" the Empress commanded, but her scientists couldn't stop the cascade. The resonance was spreading through the entire crystal network of the palace. Dr. Chen realized what was happening. "The interference. Our equipment is causing the feedback." She began frantically shutting down the human devices, but it was too late. The resonance had reached critical levels. Princess Lysandra saw the danger. The feedback would destroy not just the palace, but spread to the entire city, killing millions of her people and the human visitors. Without hesitation, she stepped into the translator's energy beam. "Lysandra, no!" the Empress screamed. The princess spread her crystalline arms wide, her body becoming a living conductor for the chaotic energies. She absorbed the full force of the feedback loop, channeling it through her crystal matrix to harmlessly disperse into space. The resonance cascade stopped, but the princess paid a terrible price. Her golden light flickered and dimmed. She collapsed to the crystal floor, her body barely glowing with the faintest spark of life. The feedback had shattered her harmonic patterns, leaving her consciousness scattered across multiple dimensional frequencies. "Daughter!" The Empress rushed to Lysasandra's side, her blue light blazing with panic and grief. She tried to channel healing frequencies into her daughter's body, but nothing worked. The princess lay motionless, trapped somewhere between life and death. Dr. Chen knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face inside her helmet. "I'm so sorry. This is our fault. Our technology caused this." The Empress looked up at the human with eyes like burning stars. Her sorrow transformed into cold rage. "Your people are cursed," she whispered. "Wherever you go, you bring chaos and death. You have taken my daughter from me." The Empress stood slowly, her crystal form blazing with terrible light. "All humans will leave Zephyrian space immediately. If any of your kind ever returns, they will be destroyed on sight. You are banished forever." Dr. Chen wanted to protest, to offer help, but she could see the Empress's grief and fury. The human delegation was escorted to their ships under heavy guard. As they departed, Dr. Chen looked back at the crystal towers of Zephyria, now dim with mourning. She pressed her hand against the ship's window, watching the beautiful world shrink into the distance. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the empty space. "I'm so sorry, Princess." The Empress stood beside her daughter's still form in the medical chamber. The best Zephyrian healers worked around the clock, but nothing could wake the princess from her strange sleep. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. The light in Lysasandra's body grew dimmer with each passing day. The Empress had saved her people, but lost her daughter. And somewhere, in the darkness of space, Dr. Sarah Chen carried the weight of that tragedy, not knowing that someday she would return to make things right. 10 years had passed since the disaster on Zephyria. Dr. Sarah Chen sat alone in her research station, floating in the empty space between star systems. The station was small and cramped, filled with strange equipment and crystal samples that glowed with faint light. Sarah had changed much in those years. Her once bright eyes were tired from countless sleepless nights. Her hair had turned gray from stress and endless work. She had devoted her entire life to understanding what happened to Princess Lysandra, and she was no closer to finding answers. The other humans had moved on. The Galactic Council had declared the Zephyrians too dangerous and xenophobic to deal with. Humanity had found other alien races to trade with and learn from. But Sarah could not forget the sight of the princess sacrificing herself to save everyone. "Computer, play the Zephyria incident recordings again," Sarah said to the empty room. The holographic display showed the moment of the accident in slow detail. Sarah watched the harmonic frequencies spiral out of control. She watched Princess Lysandra step into the energy beam. She watched the golden light in the princess's body flicker and fade. Sarah had watched this recording thousands of times, analyzing every detail. She had studied Zephyrian biology, their crystal matrices, their harmonic science. She had become the universe's leading expert on their species, though no Zephyrian would ever speak to her again. Her workstation was covered with notes and equations. Mathematical formulas covered every wall. She had spent years trying to understand how Zephyrian consciousness worked. Unlike humans, who had brains made of flesh and electricity, Zephyrians existed as patterns of harmonic energy within their crystal bodies. The resonance cascade didn't kill her, Sarah muttered to herself, as she had done countless times before. It scattered her consciousness across multiple dimensional frequencies. She's not dead, she's just lost. The breakthrough came on a cold Tuesday morning. Sarah was reviewing quantum physics research when she found a paper about consciousness and quantum superposition. The scientist had theorized that awareness itself could exist in multiple states at once, like Schrödinger's famous cat. Sarah's hands trembled as she read. This was it. This was the answer she had been searching for. Princess Lysandra wasn't dead or alive. She was trapped in quantum superposition. Her consciousness spread across infinite possibilities. The Zephyrians couldn't save her because their harmonic science was too rigid, too predictable. They thought in perfect mathematical patterns. But to collapse a quantum superposition, you needed an observer. Not just any observer, but one whose thoughts were chaotic and unpredictable. Someone who could think outside the perfect patterns of Zephyrian logic. Someone human. Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. It was impossible. But it made perfect sense. The very thing that made humans seem primitive to the Zephyrians, their chaotic, random thought patterns, might be exactly what could save the princess. She began working with desperate energy. She modified her brain with experimental technology, creating neural interfaces that could interact with quantum fields. She studied meditation techniques to control her chaotic human thoughts. She designed equipment that could bridge the gap between human consciousness and Zephyrian harmonic patterns. The work was dangerous. The neural modifications caused terrible headaches and strange visions. Sometimes, Sarah would forget where she was for hours. But she pressed on, driven by guilt and determination. She built a small, stealthy spacecraft using a combination of human and alien technology. It could slip past most detection systems, though she knew the Zephyrians would find her eventually. That was fine. She only needed one chance. As she prepared for her mission, Sarah recorded a message for humanity. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead," she said to the camera, "but I had to try. Princess Lamented saved all of us that day. She deserves someone to save her in return." She paused, looking out at the stars. Humans are chaotic. We're unpredictable. Most alien species see this as a weakness. But maybe, sometimes, chaos is exactly what the universe needs. Sarah sealed the message and uploaded it to a delayed transmission beacon. If she didn't return in 6 months, it would broadcast to Earth. She climbed into her modified ship and set course for Zephyrian space. As the stars stretched into lines around her, Sarah thought about the princess, lying motionless in her crystal chamber. Somewhere in the quantum foam of reality, Lisandra's consciousness was scattered like light through a prism. "Hold on, princess," Sarah whispered to the darkness. The journey took 3 weeks. As Sarah approached the border of Zephyrian space, her sensors detected the massive crystal ships that patrolled their territory. They were beautiful and deadly, shaped like living sculptures that moved through space like dancers. Sarah took a deep breath and activated her ship's beacon. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, requesting permission to approach Zephyria. I have information about Princess Lisandra's condition." The response was immediate and hostile. "Human vessel, you are in violation of the permanent exile decree. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." "I know how to wake the princess," Sarah transmitted. "I know how to save her." There was a long silence. Then the crystal ships surrounded her vessel like glowing sharks. "You will be escorted to Zephyria for immediate execution. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction." Any attempt. Sarah smiled grimly. She had expected this. The Zephyrians would want to kill her personally, which meant they would bring her to the Empress. That was exactly what she needed. As her ship was tractored toward the crystal planet, Sarah made her final preparations. She activated the neural interface and felt the strange tingling in her brain. Her consciousness began to expand, touching the edges of quantum space. She was ready to face the Empress's wrath. She was ready to attempt the impossible. And if she failed, at least she would die trying to right the wrong that had haunted her for 10 years. The crystal towers of Zephyria grew larger in her view screen. Somewhere in those gleaming spires, Princess Lisandra waited in the space between life and death. Soon, very soon, Sarah would discover if human chaos could triumph where alien perfection had failed. The Zephyrian guards marched Sarah through corridors of living crystal that hummed with soft music. Her hands were bound with energy shackles that glowed like captured lightning. The guards towered over her, their crystal bodies pulsing with cold blue light that showed their anger and disgust. Sarah tried to stay calm, but her heart was racing. She had made it this far. But now came the hardest part. She had to convince the Empress to let her try to save the princess. The same Empress who blamed humanity for her daughter's condition. The throne room was exactly as Sarah remembered it, but the beautiful harmonic songs had changed to sad, mournful tones. The crystal walls pulsed with dim light, reflecting the Empress's grief. At the center of the room sat Empress Veltara on her throne of living stone, her blue radiance now cold and terrible. "So," the Empress said, her voice like ice cracking, "the human returns to mock our pain. 10 years, you have been gone. 10 years my daughter has lain between life and death because of your cursed presence." Sarah straightened her shoulders and met the Empress's burning gaze. "Your Majesty, I came back to help. I think I know what's wrong with Princess Lysandra." The Zephyrian court erupted in angry harmonic chords. Several nobles stepped forward, their crystal forms blazing with outrage. "How dare this primitive claim to understand what our greatest scientists cannot?" one of them sang in resonant tones. The Empress raised her hand, and silence fell instantly. "You have 30 seconds to speak before I have you dissolved into component atoms. Choose your words carefully. Human." Sarah's mouth was dry, but she forced herself to speak clearly. "The princess isn't dead. She's trapped in quantum superposition." The resonance cascade scattered her consciousness across multiple dimensional frequencies. "Your harmonic science can't reach her because it's too ordered, too predictable." The court's anger turned to shocked disbelief. A tall Zephyrian stepped forward. Sarah recognized him as Chief Scientist Korthak, one of their greatest minds. "Impossible. Our harmonic mathematics are perfect. We have tried every frequency combination possible." "That's exactly the problem," Sarah said urgently. "You're thinking in perfect patterns, but consciousness isn't perfectly ordered. It's chaotic, random, unpredictable. To collapse a quantum superposition, you need an observer who doesn't think like you do." The Empress leaned forward on her throne, her light flickering with dangerous interest. "And you believe you are such an observer?" "Yes." Sarah's voice was steady despite her fear. "Human thoughts are chaotic. We make random associations, unexpected connections. What you see as primitive thinking might be exactly what the princess needs." Chief Scientist Korthak's crystalline form pulsed with scorn. "This is madness, Your Majesty. Human neural patterns are crude and disorganized. They could never interface with Zephyrian consciousness." But the Empress was silent, studying Sarah with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. Finally, she spoke. "Show me my daughter." The guards escorted them through the palace to the medical wing. Sarah gasped when she saw Princess Lysandra's chamber. It was a vast crystal cathedral, its walls alive with flowing patterns of light and sound. At the center, suspended in a stasis field, lay the princess. She was beautiful and heartbreaking. Her crystal body was perfectly preserved, but the golden light that had once blazed within her now flickered like a dying candle. Harmonic frequencies from hundreds of crystal resonators played around her, trying to restore her shattered patterns. "For 10 years, our best minds have tried everything," the Empress said quietly. "Every harmonic combination, every frequency modulation. Nothing reaches her. She fades a little more each day." Topter 5. Topter Personis. Sarah stepped closer to the stasis field, her modified neural interface tingling as it detected the quantum fluctuations around the princess. Through her enhanced perception, she could sense the scattered fragments of consciousness, drifting in dimensional space, like stars in a galaxy. "She's not gone," Sarah whispered. "She's everywhere, and nowhere at once. Look. She activated a small device from her belt, and suddenly the chamber filled with holographic displays showing quantum probability waves. The Zephyrians stared in amazement. The displays showed Lysandra's consciousness existing in countless possible states simultaneously. In some, she was awake and laughing. In others, she was singing or dancing or simply sitting quietly. But in most, she was trapped in the moment of the accident, reliving the resonance cascade forever. This is what quantum superposition looks like, Sarah explained. She experiences every possibility at once, but none of them fully. To save her, someone has to observe her in the right state and collapse all the possibilities into one reality. Chief Scientist Korthok studied the displays with growing excitement. The mathematics are unprecedented, but the energy requirements would be enormous, and the observer would need to interface directly with quantum consciousness fields. I've modified my brain to handle it, Sarah said, touching the neural interface devices implanted behind her ears. It might kill me, but I have to try. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was filled with bitter pain. And if you fail? If you make things worse? Sarah met her eyes. Then, you'll have the perfect excuse to declare war on humanity. You can tell the galaxy that we killed your daughter twice. The brutal honesty of the statement surprised everyone. The Empress studied Sarah's face, seeing the determination and genuine remorse there. This human had spent 10 years of her life trying to undo a mistake. She had risked death to return to enemy space. She was willing to die for a chance to save an alien princess she barely knew. Very well, the Empress said finally. You will have one chance. But if you fail, if my daughter dies because of your interference, I will not simply execute you. I will ensure that your death becomes a lesson that echoes across the galaxy for 1,000 years. Sarah nodded. I understand. The Empress turned to her scientists. Prepare the chamber. Connect the human's primitive technology to our harmonic systems. If she wishes to attempt the impossible, we will give her every advantage. As the Zephyrians began modifying their equipment, Sarah stood before the stasis field containing Princess Lysandra's. The golden light in the princess's body pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat growing fainter. I'm here, Sarah whispered. I know you can't hear me, but I'm here. I'm going to bring you home. The preparations took hours. Zephyrian technology was integrated with Sarah's neural interface devices. Quantum field generators were positioned around the chamber. The harmonic resonators were recalibrated to work with chaotic human thought patterns instead of ordered Zephyrian frequencies. Finally, everything was ready. Sarah stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by swirling energies and singing crystals. The neural interfaces hummed against her skull, ready to bridge the gap between human chaos and alien consciousness. The Empress watched from behind protective barriers, her blue light dim with fear and hope. Around the chamber, dozens of Zephyrian scientists monitored their instruments, ready to shut down the experiment if it went wrong. Begin, the Empress commanded. Sarah closed her eyes and activated her neural interface. Her consciousness exploded outward into quantum space, reaching for the scattered fragments of a lost alien princess. The real test was about to begin. Sarah's consciousness exploded into quantum space like a firework bursting in the darkness. Suddenly she existed everywhere and nowhere. Her thoughts scattered across infinite dimensions. She could see the mathematical fabric of reality itself, woven from probability and possibility. In this strange realm, she found Princess Lysandra. The princess existed as countless fragments of memory and sensation, each one trapped in a different moment of her existence. Sarah saw her as a child, learning to shape crystal with her mind. She saw her studying the stars and wondering what lay beyond their borders. She saw her in the moment of sacrifice, spreading her arms wide, to save both species from destruction. But mostly, Sarah saw her trapped in that terrible instant when the resonance cascade shattered her consciousness. Over and over, the princess experienced the feedback loop, her awareness torn apart by chaotic energies. She was caught in a loop of trauma that had lasted 10 years in quantum time. "Princess," Sarah called out with her thoughts. "Can you hear me?" The response came as scattered whispers from 1,000 different possibilities. "Who are you? So strange." Thoughts like storm clouds. Sarah began moving through the quantum realm, her chaotic human consciousness creating ripples in the perfect mathematical structures. The Zephyrian scientists watching from the real world saw their instruments going wild as Sarah's unpredictable neural patterns disrupted their harmonic equations. "The readings are unstable," Chief Scientist Korthak reported. "The humans' thoughts are creating interference patterns throughout the quantum matrix." The Empress watched the displays with growing alarm. Sarah's brain activity was spiking to dangerous levels. Blood was beginning to trickle from her nose as the neural interfaces overloaded. "Perhaps we should stop this," she said, quietly. "Not yet," whispered the medical technician monitoring Princess Lysandra. "Her consciousness fragments are responding. They're moving toward a convergence point." In quantum space, Sarah pushed deeper into the maze of scattered memories. She found pieces of the princess everywhere. A laugh from her childhood, a moment of wonder watching a sunrise, the determination she felt when she chose to save everyone from the cascade. The hardest part was convincing these fragments to come together. The princess's consciousness had been scattered for so long that it had forgotten how to be whole. Each piece existed in its own possibility, its own timeline, its own version of reality. But Sarah had something the princess's own people couldn't provide: unpredictability. Instead of trying to reassemble Lysandra's consciousness in the logical, mathematical way a Zephyrian would, Sarah began weaving the fragments together with pure human intuition. She took the princess's childhood memory of learning to fly and connected it to her adult curiosity about other species. She linked her sense of duty to her capacity for joy. She bound her moments of fear to her acts of courage, showing how they were two sides of the same coin. The process was exhausting. Sarah felt her human brain struggling to handle the vast complexities of quantum consciousness. Her thoughts became sluggish, as blood vessels in her head began to rupture from the strain. "Sarah's neural activity is critical," a Zephyrian medic announced. "Her brain tissue is hemorrhaging. We must stop the procedure. One. But in that moment, something beautiful happened. Princess Lysandra's scattered consciousness began responding to Sarah's chaotic patterns. The mathematical perfection of Zephyrian thought had kept the princess trapped. But Sarah's random, intuitive connections gave her fragments a new way to find each other. Like iron filings drawn to a magnet, the pieces of Lysandra's awareness began flowing towards Sarah's position in quantum space. They formed a swirling galaxy of memories, emotions, and experiences, all orbiting around the anchor point of Sarah's chaotic human consciousness. "I remember," the princess's voice whispered across the dimensions. "I remember who I am." Sarah smiled, even as she felt her brain beginning to shut down from the strain. "Good. Now it's time to go home." The convergence accelerated. Decades of memories slammed together in a crescendo of golden light. Princess Lysandra's consciousness snapped back into coherent form, like a rubber band that had been stretched to its limit. In the crystal chamber, alarms screamed as energy readings spiked beyond all charts. The harmonic resonators sang with impossible frequencies. The stasis field around Princess Lysandra blazed with golden fire. And then, for the first time in 10 years, Princess Lysandra opened her eyes. Sarah collapsed at the same moment, her neural interfaces sparking and failing as her overtaxed brain finally gave out. Blood poured from her nose and ears as she crumpled to the crystal floor. She had pushed human consciousness far beyond its limits, and her body was paying the price. But she had succeeded. Through the haze of pain and approaching unconsciousness, Sarah saw the princess sitting up in her stasis field. Lysandra's golden light blazed stronger than ever, her crystal form whole and healthy and magnificently alive. The Empress rushed to her daughter's side, tears of liquid crystal streaming down her face. "Lysandra, my child, my precious child, you have returned to me." The princess looked around in wonder, as if seeing the world for the first time. Her gaze fell on Sarah's unconscious form, and understanding filled her ancient eyes. "The human," she whispered. "She saved me. Her chaos gave me order." Chief Scientist Korthak was studying his instruments in amazement. The quantum superposition has completely collapsed. All consciousness fragments have converged into a single, coherent pattern. It's impossible, but the human did it. She actually did it. Zephyrian medics rushed to treat Sarah, while others attended to the princess. The human's condition was critical. Her brain had suffered massive trauma from the quantum interface process, but she was alive and slowly healing. Princess Lysandra insisted on personally overseeing Sarah's treatment. As the princess's crystal hands glowed with healing energies, she shared what she had experienced during her decade in quantum limbo. "I was everywhere and nowhere," she explained to her mother. "I could see all possible realities at once, but I couldn't exist in any of them. The human's chaotic thoughts gave me something to anchor to. She showed me that perfection isn't the only way to find harmony." The Empress studied Sarah's peaceful face as the human slept in the healing chamber. This small, fragile creature had accomplished what the greatest Zephyrian minds could not. She had returned with impossible knowledge and the courage to use it, even at the cost of her own life. "Perhaps," the Empress said quietly, "we have misjudged the humans. Perhaps their chaos is not a weakness, but a different kind of strength." Princess Lysandra smiled, her golden light warm and bright. "Yes, Mother. I think we have much to learn from them." As Sarah drifted in healing sleep, her last conscious thought was of relief. The princess was alive. The debt was paid. The nightmare that had haunted her for 10 years was finally over. But she had no idea that her greatest achievements still lay ahead, born from the unlikely friendship between a chaotic human and a perfect alien princess. Sarah woke up 3 weeks later in a crystal chamber filled with healing light. Her head felt strange, empty and quiet in a way it hadn't been for months. The neural interfaces were gone, removed during her recovery. She sat up slowly, testing her body for damage. "You're awake," said a familiar voice. Princess Lysandra stood nearby, her golden crystal form glowing with warm light. She looked exactly as Sarah remembered from 10 years ago, beautiful and alive and whole. "Princess," Sarah's voice was rough from disuse, "you're really here. It worked." Lysandra smiled, and her light grew brighter. "More than worked. You gave me back my existence. But you paid a heavy price for it." The princess gestured to Sarah's reflection in the crystal wall. The human looked older, her hair now completely gray, her face lined with exhaustion. "Worth it," Sarah said simply. "I owed you that much." "You owed me nothing," Lysandra replied. "The accident was not your fault. But your sacrifice. That was your choice. A choice that has changed everything." Over the following days, Sarah learned what had happened while she recovered. The news of Princess Lysandra's resurrection had spread throughout the Zephyrian Empire. The impossible had occurred. A primitive human had succeeded where their greatest scientists had failed. But more than that, the princess herself had changed. Her experience in quantum superposition had given her new insights into the nature of consciousness and reality. She saw the universe differently now, understanding that chaos and order were not opposites, but partners in the cosmic dance. "I want to show you something," Lysandra said one day, leading Sarah to a new laboratory. The room was filled with strange equipment that combined Zephyrian crystal technology with human engineering principles. While you recovered, I've been working on new theories, the princess explained. Your chaotic thought patterns didn't just save me. They showed me possibilities I never imagined. Watch. Lysandra activated a device that looked like crystalline wind chimes mixed with human circuitry. The machine began producing harmonic frequencies, but unlike traditional Zephyrian music, these patterns were deliberately irregular and unpredictable. Controlled chaos, the princess said with excitement. By introducing random elements into our harmonic matrices, we can achieve results that pure order never could. She demonstrated healing techniques that worked twice as fast as traditional methods, communication systems that could adapt to any alien language instantly, defensive technologies that could counter any attack by randomly shifting their parameters. Sarah watched in amazement as the princess performed miracle after miracle. This is incredible. You're combining our approaches. Our approaches, Lysandra corrected gently. I could never have discovered this without experiencing your chaotic consciousness. We are partners in this discovery. Word of their work reached the Empress, and she came to see the innovations herself. Veltara watched her daughter demonstrate technologies that seemed to bend the laws of physics, all based on the marriage of order and chaos. These discoveries could revolutionize our entire civilization, the Empress said quietly. How is this possible? Chains. Chains. 10. Chains. 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 Princess Lysandra explained patiently. For millennia, we believed perfection came from pure order. But consciousness itself is chaotic, random, unpredictable, alive. By embracing both order and chaos, we unlock potential we never knew existed. The Empress studied Sarah, who was working on her own modifications to a Zephyrian healing device. This human had not only saved her daughter but opened doorways to impossible science. Dr. Chen, she said formally, I owe you an apology, and a debt that can never be repaid. Sarah looked up from her work, surprised. Your Majesty, you don't owe me anything. I'm just glad I could help. You have done more than help. You have transformed us. The Empress's blue light pulsed with emotions Sarah had never seen before. Gratitude, respect, and something that might have been friendship. I hereby formally revoke your exile. Moreover, I invite humanity to become our partners, not subjects or servants, but equals. The word sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire, ancient and proud, had never recognized another species as their equals. But the impossible rescue of their princess had proven that different kinds of intelligence could achieve what neither could alone. Over the following months, Sarah and Lysandra worked together to establish formal relations between their peoples. The princess insisted on accompanying Sarah to address the Galactic Council, where they would present their discoveries to the entire galaxy. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Many had come simply to see the human who had saved a Zephyrian princess and the alien royal who called a human her friend. Sarah felt nervous as she approached the speaking platform, but Lysandra's presence beside her was reassuring. The princess's golden light seemed to calm her fears. Honored delegates, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. For too long, we have believed that advancement comes from perfection, from eliminating chaos and randomness from our systems. Today, we present a different truth. Lysandra stepped forward, her crystal form blazing with gentle light. Chaos is not the enemy of order. It is its partner. Together, they create possibilities that neither could achieve alone. They demonstrated their technologies to the amazed assembly. Instant healing through chaotic harmonic patterns, faster than light communication using quantum uncertainty, adaptive systems that could solve any problem by randomly restructuring themselves. But the most impressive demonstration was personal. Sarah and Lysandra stood together, human chaos and alien order, working in perfect harmony. Their friendship itself was proof that different ways of thinking could create something beautiful. When the presentations ended, the chamber erupted in discussion. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking about collaboration. The rigid boundaries between different types of intelligence started to blur. Later, as Sarah and Lysandra stood on the observation deck watching ships from dozens of worlds, the princess spoke thoughtfully. "Do you think this will change things? Really change them?" 8. Sarah considered the question. "Change is chaos, princess, and chaos is what we humans do best." She smiled at her alien friend. "Besides, we've already proven that impossible things can happen when different kinds of minds work together." The princess laughed, her musical voice filling the chamber with golden light. "Indeed. And this is only the beginning." As the years passed, the partnership between humans and Zephyrians became legendary. Their combined technologies transformed galactic civilization, but more importantly, they proved that the universe was big enough for many different kinds of intelligence, each valuable in its own way. Sarah often thought about the accident that had started it all. A disaster born from misunderstanding had become the foundation for a new age of cooperation. Sometimes, the universe needed chaos to find its way to order. Sometimes it needed someone willing to attempt the impossible. And sometimes, the most unlikely friendships created the greatest miracles of all. The galaxy was a bigger, stranger, more wonderful place because a human had learned that chaos could heal, and an alien had discovered that perfection was not perfect after all. Together, they had proven that different didn't mean lesser. It meant necessary. In the end, that was the most human achievement of all. Turning difference into strength, chaos into harmony, and impossibility into hope.